All right. Was everybody ready? Todd, ready? All right. Thank you guys for coming. This is my second Leadershop ever. Actually, no, my third, because I think the first one I did the same one twice. So this is super exciting that we have this many people in here today. I have given this time management presentation once today. This is the first time doing this. I give lots of presentations for those of you who maybe don't know who I am. I mean, I know everybody's face and I know all your names. But I'm Erik. I'm in the admissions office. I'm over admissions and scholarships, and I do tons of presentations every day, but it's usually about getting into EAC, 10 steps, get admitted, you know, how to get advising, how to get financial aid, all those things. So time management, how I'm going to say I got volunteered or voluntold for this one because my super awesome boss named Gary and other cool people like Todd and Tom Thompson and some other folks, when I used to be sitting in these quality council meetings, President's Quality Council meetings for action project leaders. Shannon was talking about possible leaderships, and someone just kept saying my name over and over and over again. And after a while, I just quit listening to what they were volunteering me for. But this was one. And so apparently Dr. Sorensen thinks I'm fairly organized and fairly productive. So I was like, hey, I like talking in front of people. Let's go do it. So I've been making this thing. I have nothing to hand out to you except these.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, and so I know I can't hardly give any kind of presentation without bringing these. So, so we have to keep some kind of things the same. Boss, you probably need one. Todd. All right. So, no need to raise hands if you have questions or comments or anything like that. Just blurt them out. But I don't know why you signed up for this thing. I haven't given, like I said, a professional time management. And I haven't really sat down and taught someone how to manage their time. I think I'm pretty productive myself as far as the things that I want to get done throughout the day and staying on task and things like that. So what I'm here to, when you guys signed up, you were probably just looking for either more ways to be productive, or maybe you just think there's just not enough time in the day to get the stuff that I need done, or you just want ideas for whatever, okay? So that's why I don't bring anything to hand out, because there's not one right way, okay? Everybody handles their own time, their own management, their own plan. I'm not going to hand out planners or anything like that. There's so many different tools. I've been to so many different conferences and trainings and use all kinds of different resources to that have influenced how I decide to manage my time. And it works well for me. If it works well, great for you. That's awesome. If you're able to take one thing away from here today, then I think it's been a good leadership. So, some of these ideas as far as managing our time really depends on a lot of decisions that we make and just managing other things, not just managing time, managing our decisions, the things we decide to do every day, every hour, every week, attention management, energy management. And before we start getting into some of these tools, one of the things that I think is most important before we decide to implement any kind of change or any kind of new strategy to our life, our professional, social, personal life, whatever, is we each need to decide to be awesome, to be extraordinary. Okay, not just go and get everything done to do the bare minimum. Right? Our job description is this, and we're only going to do this and nothing more. Okay? That's just ordinary. Right? We are in here today because we want to do something unique that only we can add to whatever we do. Okay? So the first thing, as far as managing your time, you're deciding to be extraordinary at managing your own time. Okay? And extraordinary as far as the things you do, your interactions with other people. And again, this is not just a thing that you do at work. Once you decide to be extraordinary, you apply it to everything in your life. And something that our student workers in the admissions office are called the advanced team. And we teach an 8-week class with them, and it's called student service training. And I'm always talking about adding value, okay? Adding value to others. And adding value doesn't mean money, okay? That's not adding value to Angie, okay? What's adding value is I am deciding to do something for somebody or for a group or whatever that adds value that takes no extra time and takes no extra money. And so these are just some things to describe, maybe some things are what are things that are of value, things that are not of value. Something like as easy as telling the truth instead of spinning the truth, making something up. The only thing that has value is telling the truth. One of my favorites is that second one there, solving problems. It takes zero talent to be able to find a problem. Okay? And do you really hang out with a lot of people who say, well, the problem is this, or this is the problem with this, and they tell you what all the problems are. Isn't that kind of negative and not fun to be around? But who do you go to when you do have a problem? Okay? Who does add value? It's the person who is a problem solver, okay, or a solution finder. Those are the things that add value before you even recognize a problem. Okay? Think of solutions. Think of things that we can do. Not just for ourselves, but for our bosses, our student work studies, our kids, our cousins, whatever. Other things that are of extreme value. And while we're here today, being dependable and prompt. There's only 24 hours, right? Okay, so when we're dependable and we're prompt for a meeting, for an appointment, for a movie, okay, we're saying that your time is as valuable as my time. If I'm late, that means I'm intentionally late all the time, then I really don't care about your time, but you do, right? You only have 24 hours and I'm going to waste 10 minutes of your day. You can do a lot of stuff in 10 minutes, okay? So when we're talking about adding value, that's why we go to things like this, Leadership. We want to add value to the people and things that we care about. Moving on to making decisions, these resources I have here. This first one I didn't spend a whole lot of time on is a Fred factor. I'm not a huge book reader. I mean, I know how to read, right? But I fall asleep really easy when I read. And so I like books like this, little ones, right? Ones that I can get done really fast. And this is one of the first books a few years ago. Some of you guys may not know, when I first came to EAC 14 years ago, I was in athletics. I was a young, stupid football coach. Started learning some more things about leadership and working with others and things like that. And this is one of the most influential books I have ever read as far as going for extraordinary, creating value for others. And Fred, it's about a postman. And the underlying theme here, and I'm sorry to go back to going extraordinary, but is that there are no ordinary jobs. There's only people that feel ordinary in their job or in their position. And Fred is a postman in Denver, and the guy who wrote this book is Mark Sanborn, and he was just so influenced by Fred and being extraordinary and providing excellent service that he wrote the book about. But anyway, Fred intentionally delivered mail in a way that no one else could. To that, Fred made you feel that you were the only person he was delivering mail to, and he would deliver everybody's mail in a personal way. The thing that made him stick out to Mr. Sanborn was that he was a motivational speaker, had just moved to Denver, and so Fred saw this new house on his route, so he goes up and introduces himself. Hi, my name's Fred. I am your postal worker. How can I serve you better with the mail? And Mark's just like, just give me my mail. Isn't that what the mailman do? Just stick it in a box and we'll be happy. But that wasn't Fred. Fred makes sure, hey, what do you do? And at first it was kind of like, hey, you're asking me like how often I'm gone, things like that. Are you like stalking my house or looking for ways when I'm not going to be here? But he was just trying to get information about his customer so he could deliver personal service to him. And he found out that he was gone for long periods of time. He had a small mailbox. Fred said, hey, Mr. Sanborn, if you're gone, that mail's going to pile up and thieves and crooks will see that. And that's an indicator that someone's not home. So how about I put it somewhere on your property where you know where it's going to be, and if it just gets too much, then we'll just hold it at the post office and you tell me when you're home and we'll get you your mail. And he's like, wow, that's so awesome. And then even on weekends, Fred lived in the neighborhood. He'd drive around. He knew every single one of his delivery people, the people he delivered mail, knew all their names. and didn't have to know tons of stuff about them. But that's not in the postal code, right? That you have to know those things. That's just something Fred decided to do and made him very memorable, provided personal service to others. And what reminded me to go back to that book was this next book of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Some of you are probably familiar with Stephen Covey, Franklin Covey. Dr. Sorensen, actually I'd heard of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and Dr. Sorensen encouraged me to go through a facilitator training to teach the 7 habits. Dr. Sorensen teaches a class for our ASAC Leadership. And it's a version of this. It's almost the exact same, but it's like particularly tailored to college students. But with the 7 habits, one of the first things they start you off with as far as decision making is deciding the difference between urgent things and important things. And sometimes urgent things feel like they're really important, but they're really not. And sometimes urgent things are really, really important. What did I say? Important things are really, really important, but they're not very urgent, right? Like, well, I'm going to jump ahead of myself, but we have emergency rooms, we have urgent care. If you're out riding your bicycle and you fall down and a stick goes in your arm and there's blood and stuff, that's urgent, right? Something has to happen right now. That's urgent. But if I get an email and I don't check it on my phone immediately, whatever, and it's just some question, hey, do we have these certificates done for the engineering kids? If I don't answer it right now in 2 minutes, okay, nothing bad's going to happen. But if I don't have it done or answer your email by the day that they're due, okay, so it's important, but it's not necessarily urgent. So there's some things that feel like we have to do these things right now, but sometimes urgent things may not have any consequences at all if we just blow them off totally or just let them sit a little bit. Important things are things, if they're not done, there's going to be serious consequences. And when I was thinking of this, what to say, I thought of Dr. Skinner. Dr. Skinner and records, you're in charge of graduation, right? That's a pretty important thing. When is it?
Graduation?
Yeah. It's May 6th, okay? So today, May 6th, not really, it's important, but it's not urgent. I don't have to start working on it right now, okay? But come April, does Dr. Skinner start working, do you guys start working on registration in April or May? Not registration, I mean graduation. That's when you start?
No, we start right now.
You start right now. Why?
Because there's a lot to do.
There's a lot, and it's important, right? So important things, we need to start along, they may not be an urgent deadline to it, but they're extremely important. So we have to prepare, we have to plan. And with these quadrants in the Covey training, 7 Habits of Effective People, if you ever get to go to one of these and you go to, and you're there with people who have already been through the training, they're going to say things like Q1, Q2, Q2 is awesome, you should be in Q2, that's Q2 thinking, okay? They're referring to these quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as you can see up here, we have urgent, not urgent, important, or not important. And we probably all get into these quadrants all the time. The key is to not spend a whole lot of time in the ones that aren't important and aren't urgent, but we get a lot of return from, and this is how, visual things, return on investment, this is kind of how I look at these things. If something's urgent, something's happening right now, when it's a high registration time, when we came back for Christmas break, we had 2 days before school started. Kids didn't register, or I need to make, that's urgent, right? Those things have to happen right now. But the work the kids are getting into it, the kids who waited that long to register, they're spending a lot of time waiting in line to get registered. But what do they get? They're getting the class they want, but it's probably not the time they want, or the teacher that they wanted it, okay? Or the day they wanted it, because they waited and made it urgent. It was important October 15th, right? Or school is important all the time. If we would have been thinking about registration in quadrant 2, plan to register, get ready to register, then we would have got a lot more out of our time, right? And a lot more out of our money. So with the quadrants, we will spend probably a lot of time in quadrant 1, some of it by choice, some of it not by choice, just because of our environments that we're in. But if we're spending a lot of time putting out fires with crises, we're always, you ever met someone say, I like working under pressure, right? How many good things really come out of the last minute? Things that are reports that are written at the last minute. Is there a lot of detail in them? No, or a project that you may have had for a class and you did it on the very last day. Was it very good? I remember one when I used to be a massive procrastinator in college. I had a 10-page research paper due for as a media communication class, and I didn't start working on it till the day before. Had no idea what to write on. I wrote a 10-page paper in about 6 hours on Santa Claus. I got an F. Okay. So I was there actually down here. I was thinking I was busy in the deception. Okay, I was doing something that was pretty urgent, but I had no return on investment because I actually got way too far into the hole. And then quadrant 4, waste and excess. I wasted an hour and 42 minutes yesterday intentionally because I liked Evel Knievel, and there was a documentary on him, and it lasted an hour and 42 minutes. So I did that yesterday. But I quickly got out of the waste and excess. There was a whole lot of other shows on demand that I could have watched, but nothing good was going to happen from doing that. But it's okay to go there every once in a while. Attention management is just really putting your priorities in order. What is the most important thing, and doing those things first. When I first started in admissions, one of our main things that we do in admissions is high school outreach and talking to students. And at the time, we had 2 people that left campus. There was Dr. Sorensen and myself. We started in the summertime. And about 3 weeks after we started, Dr. Sorensen became Dean of Students, and his ability to get off campus was really, really limited. Did that decrease the number of schools that had students that were interested in Eastern? Nope. It had the same demand, but less people to do it. So one of the first things that I did was prioritize the schools, go back and research which high schools in Arizona and New Mexico traditionally produce a lot of students that enroll in EAC. And I went back 3 and 5 years just to see where my priorities were. Okay, I still only have so many hours in a day. I still have only so many days to get out on the road and visit these students. And so we have to go to the ones that produce the most return, right? So determining what your priorities are really tells you what to pay attention to. And before I even knew what Covey was, I'd heard this, hadn't seen the demonstration, but I had heard about big rocks. Has anyone heard this demonstration? Has anyone never? I need someone who's never heard of big rocks before, or doesn't really know what it is. Or just fake it. Anybody want to be a faker? No? Okay, Angie, you're in the front. Okay, so we got this bucket, okay? And Covey talks about big rocks and gravel. And when we think about our quadrants, okay, we have things that are urgent but not important. We have things that we spend our time with that are not urgent and not important. And then we have our priorities, which are things that we really, really care about, okay? So read some of these things. I'm just going to pull them out here, and you read some of those things out, Angie.
Big opportunity, vacation, exercise, major project, family.
I don't really understand that, Rock, but I do.
Important and urgent, planning and preparation. These are the different quadrants. Reading.
Yep.
Relationship building. Service, community, church. Time for self.
Okay. So pick some of those things. This is what we're going to do. We're going to try to put all these things in this bucket. Okay? Okay. And so these big rocks are some of your favorite things, okay? So pick out some of your favorite things there.
Okay, how many do you want me to pick?
Just your favorite, that's enough. Those are your first 4 choices? Yeah? And you don't dislike these,
I don't dislike
right?
these. These are important.
They're important, but they're just not the main ones, right?
Well,
I mean, other than those 4. So like if you only had to pick 4, those first 4 were the ones you would have picked, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, so keep those in your hand first. Okay. So this stuff right here, this is the gravel. This is all the emails that you get every day, all the phone calls that you get from Mike every day, all the stuff that's not this, okay? But you do these, right? Okay? And so we're going to put this in this bucket, and this is your day, okay? This is your 24 hours. But this is all the other little crap that happens to you in 20. Am I allowed to say it on TV? I just did, okay. So we know all that's going to happen in this day, okay? And then we have all these things that are very, very important to you, right? And we want to fill this thing just level, because this is 24 hours, ends at the top of this bucket, okay? Start putting your rocks in there. It's getting high.
Getting high.
Run out of time. You're going to have to stay late after work.
There's no room for
Can't get them
planning
in.
and preparation.
None. None. But she can put all this stuff in here. Okay? And the thing is, just take all this stuff out. Okay? And we want to stay in quadrant 2. Okay? Maybe a few 1s. Want to stay out of quadrant 4 if we can avoid it. Quadrant 3 if we can avoid it. So now, fill your day. Get all this stuff in there. And what is this stuff?
The little things, the things that just happen anyway.
And what happens if you blow these off? Probably nothing. One of the coolest things, I'll never forget this, it was one of the simplest quotes, and it wasn't from anybody famous. But going back to my young football days, I always thought that if you guys watch football, they're always talking about how coaches make adjustments at halftime, And so I was a defensive coordinator, had an assistant coach who happened to be a lieutenant colonel in the Army, so they know a little bit about planning and preparation and fighting, right? And we're doing pretty good. And I'm talking to him over the headphones. My Frank, what do we got to do? What do we got to do? And he goes, man, sometimes doing nothing is the most productive thing you can do in terms of that strategy. Okay? So these things right here, are they big or little? Little. They're little. If I don't do these things, will they be here tomorrow? Mm-hmm. Yep. And nothing bad is probably going to happen if I don't do these things. Okay? So when do I want to start working on them? Right now? No. As soon as you get into work? When I can fit them in, right? And if I don't, so what? Okay? Now fill your day. You still got some. You can't avoid these totally. You're still going to have to do them, right? It's a lot of gravel. Okay, time manager, keep going. Okay, is that a lot of stuff? Mm-hmm. And a lot more stuff than we did the other day, right? We just rearranged things, right? And who really cares about this, right? We know this will still be there tomorrow. We can put it in tomorrow's bucket. Or just, this is Gary's bucket, so I'm not going to chuck it because he needs this stuff back. So as long as we start with the big rocks first, we can get a lot of stuff crammed into 24 hours. But the ones that are in big rocks, those are quadrant 2 things that take time and planning. And not just work, things like family vacations, okay? Or just family time. Some things that we do in quadrants 4 and 3 or 1 that may not be productive straight to us, but maybe one of our big rocks is our spouse or our kids, and something that we do in here has high value to them. Remember, creating value for others? So being able to identify, not only knowing what our big rocks are, but identifying what's valuable to those big rocks, the people that are in those big rocks, that's going to alter some of our decisions. Okay? So my wife likes to watch TV. Sometimes she'll watch Say Yes to the Dress 4 episodes in a row. I could watch 1.5 in a row yesterday. But I knew if I did that she would sit there and watch Evel Knievel documentary with me too. So while this waste and excess happened a little bit, it was also creating some value because one of my big rocks liked that stuff, right? So stick with the big rocks and make sure we have energy to make these decisions, to plan our day. Our brain is only 2% of our body weight, but takes 20% of our energy just to make decisions. And we need to fuel this, make sure we have enough energy to do these things. And creating energy is something that I'm very, very interested in. Besides my athletic coaching background, strength conditioning background, before I got into admissions, I did a lot of work in the health field and sports nutrition with one of our local optimal health systems here in town, and learned a lot of stuff, a lot of simple things that we can do. And one of the most important things, we don't necessarily have to go pay a trainer to do things, but we do need to eat. Okay, the only place energy comes from is from eating food that has vitamins, that has nutrients. We don't get energy from coffee. We don't get energy from soda and sugar and Red Bull and Monsters and whatever. That's not true energy. So if we're not eating right, we're not going to feel right. We're not fueling our bodies with more things. And there's tons of different diets. There's HCG, there's Atkins, there's all kinds of different things we can do. Some of the simplest things you can do is cut out two things. Cut out white flour and carbonation, which do nothing for your body. There's no nutrients in white flour. You know what white flour is? It's glue. You ever done paper mache? Made piñatas, blow up a balloon? It's flour and water. Okay? So like white bread, enriched white bread, you just go buy a loaf of glue and eat that. Are we getting any energy from that? Cut out white flour. It's pretty easy. It's going to probably require you to read some labels and look for things that are 100% wheat flour and things like that. But you'll be amazed when you start looking into it how many types of foods and things that we buy have white flour in there, but no energy whatsoever, provides no energy whatsoever. Carbonation includes carbonated water, energy drinks, soda, beer, whatever. Carbonation severely slows down our digestive process. And even though we're eating good food, if we're taking in things that slow down the digestion of those food, we can't get the nutrients out of it to produce the energy. There was I remember a stat one time when I was in health of someone that was just eating some ribs, some pork. I love barbecued pork. Does anyone else love barbecued pork? I know Gary does. All right. So pork is one of the hardest to digest meats that you can eat. It takes a long period of time. Your digestive system, if you're eating something that's fairly easy to digest, probably takes about 3 hours to completely digest it and get the energy out of it. When we add carbonation, it doubles and triples the time to get any kind of energy out of there. And so when we eat foods that are hard to digest or make it harder to digest by adding carbonation, we're just slowing down our ability to digest that food and get energy from it. So try to cut out carbonation. I'm not saying you have to do it completely. I know a lot of us have heard the 80-20 rule before. Okay? And there's things that are cool to eat, like these mint truffles. I didn't give you 80 of them, I gave you 1. Right? So 80% of the time, try to do the good things. You'll get 80% more energy from the food that you're eating. And then 20% of the time, hey, it's okay to have that donut once a week. I used to have, and pretty soon you'll find yourself doing less and less of that 20%. I used to only allow myself to have a soda once a week on Sundays. Vanilla Coke, homemade vanilla Coke with a can, homemade vanilla. That was my one thing. I don't even have one anymore, just because it just became non-important. But it was cool when I was first starting to try it out and make those changes to my diet. Drink more water. Hey, if you're cutting out carbonation, you're still going to be thirsty. Throw some water in there. It can never hurt. And then eat more raw food. When we cook foods, any kind of foods, the nutrients, of course, the minerals and the vitamins, they decrease as they're cooked. But the other thing that gets removed are the enzymes. There's a book that I didn't bring, but it's called Enzyme Nutrition by Dr. Hell. But enzymes are how we digest our food, and there's very specific types of enzymes. For example, like fats are digested by lipase. And so when we eat an avocado, you have heard that avocados are high in fat, right? Okay. Raw foods have their own enzymes. When you cut open that avocado, it might be green, then within an hour it starts turning brown. You know why it's turning brown? It's digesting itself, because avocados have lipase in them. It's a raw food. When we cook those foods, we destroy the enzymes. So if we eat more raw food, the easier it is for our body to our body, I said body, to digest those foods and get the nutrients that are in there because we're not wasting our own energy to digest food and using our own enzymes. So the more raw food you can eat, not all raw food's great, you know, but the more you can eat, the more energy you're going to get out of your food. So try to cut out those two things. Drink more water, eat more raw food. You'll get more energy out of your food. Start moving. I thought this was awesome. Sitting is the new smoking. How graphic is that? I mean, everybody knows how awful smoking is. When you say sitting is the new smoking, get up. You're all smoking right now. But sedentary lifestyles, I mean, we've all heard, we've all see it on TV. We've been to a million different classes and things like that of exercise. But being able to do things, some of you, if you've been to my office, you guys know that I stand up all day long. And really didn't start off because of a health reason as far as just wanting to stand up, was because I do drive a lot. So I spend all these miles sitting down in the car, and then I come back to work and sit down at work, and I go home and I relax and I sit down at home. And so things started to feel weird down here from sitting all the time. My lower back started hurting, and it felt good to stand up, so I put some boxes up on my desk and put everything up, and it was great. And then Todd came in and said, man, those boxes look awful. You got to get something cooler in here. So we had Keith in maintenance make me a little stand for the stuff, and I've been standing now for about 3 years. And you know what I found, without even looking at research, it's really hard to screw off when you're standing up and waste time, because I mean everything's right here in front of your face. Right, sitting, and you're not feeling relaxed, but you're kind of feeling pretty productive. So anytime you can stand up, you know, it might not be possible to stand up at your desk and work standing up, but it is possible to get up and walk around a little bit. Every time you get up and walk around, it just increases your productivity mentally and physically.
I'll get all asleep on these when I'm dead.
Anybody seen Roadhouse? Freaking love that movie. It's a horrible show, but I just love the movie, and if it's got Sam Elliott, it's worth at least watching one time, right? And I will never forget when he told him and Patrick Swayze and his new girlfriend sitting in a diner after being up all night, she said, don't you guys need to sleep? And that's what he said, which is awful advice, no matter how cool Sam Elliott is. But sleep is extremely important. And, you know, this is off of WebMD, but when we are lacking sleep, when we're tired, we don't make good decisions. Very few good decisions are made super late at night. When we've worked 8 hours already, or 10 hours, or 12 hours, the longer we stay up, the later we try to decide things. Very rarely is a good decision made late at night, especially after 12 o'clock at night. So make sure you're getting good enough sleep. Make sure you're sleeping on a regular schedule. You might be able to get by on 6. That's fine. We're all different, you know, but 7.5 is great. 8, even better. 9. But sleep consistently. Go to bed at a consistent time. You know, if you fall asleep with the TV on, they say not to do that, but so what? At least you're falling asleep and turn the thing off. But sleep consistently and get enough sleep so you feel refreshed, you're making better decisions, you're feeling good about what you're doing because you have enough sleep, and your body only recovers when you're at rest and sleeping anyway. And then relax. And this is not sleeping. Okay? Everybody relaxes a lot of different ways. I like to fish. Dr. Sorensen, you like to watch movies, right? Who else has a thing? What's your thing? Not when you're at work. What do you like to do? You like to take pictures. What's relaxing for you, Tammy? You work out. That's relaxing for me too. But I don't like doing it with anybody because that stresses me out, right? So work out by myself, right? That's relaxing for me. What do you like to do? Crafts. Playing games. Kim, what do you like to do? What is it?
I love to walk, be outside, just sit in the sun on my front porch. The
Yeah.
sun is huge.
Yeah.
You like to do all those things? All of them?
All of them.
Wow, you need a bigger bucket.
Yeah, I need a big bucket.
How about you?
I like to read with my kids.
Reading with your kids? Cook?
I like to read.
Read? We did you already? Deanna? Art, I knew that. Okay, so those are those rocks too. There should be a relaxed rock in there. We have to make time for it. If we don't make time for it, it's never going to happen. Some resources here, going back to the health thing. We have a couple things here in the Gila Valley. Lee's Right Way and Optimal Health Systems, besides selling products, they have different things, assessment type of things. If you don't, if you're looking for some kind of health resources, some health advice, some places to make some changes, there's no reason to go somewhere else when those things are right here, and they do a great job. But I can tell you this, before you buy any kind of vitamin or any kind of supplement, if you do not exercise and change what you're eating, supplements aren't going to matter, not one little bit. Okay? Your exercise and your diet, those changes are the things that you should work on first as far as increasing your energy before you look into taking any other kind of vitamin. All right, a few more slides here that are helpful for managing time. Number one, write things down. And I don't care if you use a planner. This is my favorite planner I've ever had, one I get for free from Pam at the beginning of the school year. And this thing, you see this clip? I have to have these clip. In about a week, I'm going to need another one down here because I wear it out so much. There's only 2 little staples in here. So I need one that's got like rubber tires on here because I use it so much. But when you write things down, not only is it easier to remember, that's just a proven fact. With study habits or anything else, when we write stuff down, we're probably going to remember what we wrote down. So some things that I have learned, one of the most powerful things is writing a personal mission statement. And I never had one of these until I did the Covey thing last summer, and that's one of the exercises when you're going through the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People training is to develop your own mission statement. Lots of businesses have mission statements. EAC has a mission statement. A mission statement is who you are. Okay, it's not your goals. Okay, it's not your vision of what you're going to be. It's who you are and what's important to you. And no one has to see your mission statement. It's none of their business anyway, right? You write one for yourself. And until I written my own personal mission statement, I was pretty amazed of how differently I started looking at other things and prioritizing things like what was really extremely important to me. And you just don't start writing, like you're writing a paper, you don't start writing out sentences. You start writing things. You start writing down your big rocks. And then you might have a list this big full of things that you think are your big rocks. And then you go back again and you reevaluate. Okay, I got to pick 3. Okay, and that's why I was trying to get you pick the most important ones. If I have to pick 3, the world's going to end in 10 seconds. If I don't pick 3, pick the 3 that are important to you. So you will keep whittling down your rocks a little bit, and then pretty soon you realize that, hey, there's only really 2 or 3 things that control my decisions. And you may not have known it before you wrote your mission statement, but then when you write it and you write to yourself who you are in 2 or 3 sentences, you'll be amazed of what happens, the decisions you make after that, because all of your decisions are going to go right to those things. And that's why we have mission statements. That's why we write down goals, short-term, long-term, because they don't make the decisions for us, but they're our guide for the decisions that we make. And goals are important. Like I mentioned, daily goals, weekly, monthly. We all should have goals, something to work for, because then if you don't, why are you working? You're just playing with gravel if you don't have goals, right? And then keep some kind of daily schedule where you keep it on your phone, you have a book, you're using your Outlook. Just write things down. I even have, besides this calendar, I have one of those big, huge desk calendars right on my desk. I have a whiteboard like this sitting right in front of my eyes all the time. And every time I come in the morning, I'll write down the big things I need to do today, the big rocks for that day. And I'm not supposed to leave until I get those done. Or if I get distracted by some gravel that's urgent, a kid comes in, didn't get his money, hey, I can fix that pretty quick, but I can't forget to go right back to what's on my board. So write down the things that are important to you that need to get done that day and keep a schedule. And then challenge yourself. See how much you can get done in one day. Okay? More hours at work doesn't mean you're more productive. I used to spend, and I still see coaches, and this is one of the reasons why I'm glad I don't coach anymore, because it would be not uncommon to come to work at 5 o'clock in the morning and not leave at 10 o'clock at night. And and then not until actually I got out, I was like, what the heck were we doing for that long? Okay, how much, there's only 22 dudes on a football field. Why do we got to spend 14 hours a day figuring out what to do with these 22 dudes? There's only so many places, and they're in a box. They can only go so far. So, and going back to this gravel is going to be here tomorrow, right? If we figure out the big rocks and we come to work at 8 and we know we get off at 5, how much can I get in between 8 and 5? That's what makes you more productive and providing more valuable is how much stuff can we get done between 8 and 5. And then 5 hits for myself. My family is one of those things in my mission statement that drives almost all my decisions. Now it's rare, unless I'm on the road and can't get home after 5, rarely am I staying after work. Because after work, what time do you go home? 5 o'clock. What time do you go home?
5:30.
5:30? Do you get, why?
Because I come in at 8:30.
Oh, see?
It's
Same
time
thing.
management.
Same
It's
thing.
great.
But you got the same amount of time,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Your window closes at 5, right? Your window closes at 4:30, but you don't leave till 5, right? And so if I have to stay, I work with students. If I stay after work, what am I really getting done? I can't help with financial aid because you're gone, right? I can't help them with registration because that's closed too. Weekend, I rarely check my emails on the weekend. Okay. Is that an important message from the student? Yes, it is. Can I do anything about it till Monday? Nope. Okay. And it's all about just decisions and deciding what we need. So when you challenge yourself, remember that I want to do more without adding more time. How much can I get done before 8? Get my kids dressed, I get their lunch made, I got 10 more minutes, hey, I can unload this dishwasher. And that's one thing I don't have to do when I get home. More time than I can spend with my kids, with quality time in the morning. This doesn't happen with kids. Okay? You get them ready, get them gone, get them out, and create more time throughout there. And then the last thing, start today. Okay, this is another great book that I've read before from John Maxwell, another leadership expert, some guy who's, we've actually had him on some of our satellite leadership conferences or presentations that we've had here at EAC. He's written several books. I think Provost Bryce even in one of those, the Communicator. There's a book section in there. That's the official title too, isn't it? Book section. Gila Monster Readers. Provost Bryce even recommended this book once before in there. And the theme is, today's the only thing we count on. It's too late for yesterday. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, and we have no control over tomorrow. So if we're going to make any kind of change or implement any kind of change, it has to start today. Because the longer we wait, it's just another excuse to not do something else or a reason to forget. So if we want to change something, even if it's one little thing, it's I'm going to go home and I'm going to eat a carrot instead of a donut today. But you started it today, right? Okay. I'm going to do this again, I think in March. It'll probably be better than today because the second one's always better. But I don't know. We have a few minutes if you guys want to talk about something else. Dr. Kim.
What about the person that you just run and you're just so burned out and it's just not there? How do you reignite the engine? I would say start with that personal mission statement and determine what your big rocks are, because that's going to determine why are you running? That's what we got to figure out. And if I can go back to a slide here, the quadrants. 1, 2, 3, and 4 is the things that are causing you to run. And sometimes I feel like I'm running all the time too. But if we can identify what things are making you run, okay? Because it's probably not this. It's probably this that's making you run. So my advice would be to make that personal mission statement, identify what your big rocks are, what are the things that are very, very important to you, and then find out what these things are. You ever get one of these in your shoe? They're awful. Can you remember a whole thing of them in your shoes? So figure out what those things are that are causing you to run, and then after you're able to write some of those down, then start figuring out, okay, is this important? Is this something that had to be done today? Because that thing's probably going to come up again, right? And not maybe today or the next day, but it's probably going to come up more than once. So identify those things that are making you feel like you're running, and then you either manage them or see if you can cut them out completely. Because some of the things you can cut them out completely and nothing will happen. But if we stay the same way we are, that's the definition of insanity, right? Keep doing the same thing over and over and over again to expect the same results.
I have one of those problems where I have a hurry up and wait kind of a situation. I've got to hurry up and get this done, but then I've got to wait for signatures and approvals, and I've got to wait for proofing and other things. And so I'm always in a hurry, and then I'm always waiting.
Right.
And I wish I was just more prepared to just be consistent.
Right. Well, in some things you have no control over at all, right? It's like if Mike's got to sign something, or one of the other deans got to sign something, they need it now, but maybe they have something else that's that you have no control over. And so you're prioritizing the way you feel you need to, and then you have that wait time. I don't know, what can I do in that wait time?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I need medium-sized rocks that I can put in the wait time. Okay, during the wait time, I can do these little things.
Yeah, but that wait time, the things that, like you're saying, the things that you have to have right now, yes, they're important, yes, they're urgent, but then your next thing to do doesn't happen for a little, you're waiting. A lot of these quadrant 2 things can happen in the waiting. Things that don't have to be done now, but things that you can spend a little time on to, when it does come, now you're ready to throw that thing out there, because this is what I did in my wait time. I was planning, I was preparing, I was doing all these things while I was waiting. Yeah.
What is the key on being on time? I try so hard, but I always see one less thing at home I can get done.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll finish that. Like you say, to make time when you get off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then it's like, even if it's 2 after still, or 10 or 20 after, or whatever it might be, but how do you be on time to everything?
Well, the first thing I would say would be get a watch, but I don't wear a watch. But I do care about time, because a very good employer pays me to be at work at 8, right? And the students that we're serving, they don't care what happens to me before I get to work. They just care that I'm there at 8. And I care that I get to work on time. My kids got to get to school on time. So for myself, I know a time that I have to be out of the house. And when I lived in Pima, I knew it took me 8 minutes to get from my house to here from Pima, and that was the latest I could leave was 7:52. And so going back to the whole writing things down and mission statement thing, designated time. I cannot be in this house past this time, or I cannot sit here in this office until this time, or I know I'm going to be late, because I know me. And I'm going to keep doing, I'm going to try to get one more thing in, but you have to create a cutoff, and you have to write it down, or you will always be late. Someone else write it up.
I heard one time that there's like several psychological reasons why people are late, and one of them is that you don't really want to go, and so that's why you're late, because it's kind of a. And then another one is arrogance, the world will wait for you. Another one is you have a really crappy time clock, internal.
Yeah.
You can fix that one, because that's, I have issues with that. And you can fix it by just watching a clock, like, or setting a timer for every minute. You can kind of fix your internal time clock sometimes. There were a couple other reasons, but I don't remember what they were. But that helped me get on time better.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, there's not one tool that's going to be right for each of us. They're all going to be different. And there's tons of studies, even like going to the sleep thing. Like when you said you can fix some of those things, one of those things, like you might not be going to bed on time, and that's screwing you up for being late the next day. Yes?
I think one of the Achilles heel I have is I'll sit down. I know before I can sit down at my desk what my priorities are going to be that day, but then you open your email, and there's like 5 emails that are just 5 minutes each to reply, quick things, and you think, oh, I'll just get them out of the way, because then I'll have all that out of the way, and then I can concentrate on my big rock, right?
Happens to me all the time.
You get caught up in those emails and the responses, and 2 hours pass, and you haven't started on the project that you had planned to. But I think one of the reasons that happens is because you know that people are expecting a response. They have an idea that you're working during that time, and they want a response, because we're in this on-demand, thing where you're getting texts and emails. And so do you have any suggestions for that? Do you check, because you kind of have to, when you're looking at your priorities for that, you kind of have to open your email and see if there is anything that becomes important that day that maybe you hadn't known was going to be important.
Yeah.
Do you check your email first thing in the morning, or do you like work on projects and wait an hour?
Both. When I view emails, because most of the emails, a lot of the emails I get are about that they need help to get into EAC. And I think about service. When I go buy stuff or I'm going to get someone else's service, I mean, none of us want to wait, right? We all expect to have stuff happen right now, and does it ever? No, but how awesome is it if it does? And so that's the first thing that when I get an email is like, man, if I return this right away immediately, this person is going to be blown away because nobody responds to emails that fast. So they automatically think that I'm cooler than everybody else they went to help for because I got to them faster. But when you said 5 minutes for one email, you have 10 emails, that's an hour. Now I just spent 1 hour writing emails. So for myself, with all my emails, one of the first things I do, well, I have it connected to here, and I try not to be a slave to the device or to the email. But I will check when I wake up in the morning, I'll hit email, and anything that's, I just delete. There's some things that, I mean, they're not from a person because I'm using my EAC email address for other sites, and I'm not supposed to, you know. I know I'm not the only person in here that gets junk email to our EAC stuff. So we got to delete all that first. But then, like, if it's something that I kind of think like in words and in sentences. How long is this going to take me to explain this? Can I explain it in 5 words or less? And this might be easier for me because in college I was a broadcast journalism major, and the whole thing was when you're writing a story, you want to use as few words as possible to get that story because you only have 30 seconds to tell that story on TV or radio or whatever. No one wants to sit and watch an hour you talking about a cat that got saved by the fireman, right? And so if I can write this email really, really fast and get it off, then I'll do it. But if it's something that's gonna, man, I got a little bit more explanation to do, then I might wait, discern how long can I wait until I'm done with this project that I really, really want to get done. It might take me an hour to do this project, and when I'm done, that would be, you know, that's enough time. And I think if you can get back to someone in 24 hours or less, I think that's pretty acceptable. Do you? I mean, for service? And because we know email is instant, but we don't know that person's sitting at their desk. We could be at work, but at a different office, or in the bathroom, or on the phone. And so if we can get to something within 24 hours where I need to spend a little bit more than 30 seconds on it, then maybe I should wait to when I'm done with my big rock for that day and then work on that important email. Or, hey, you know what else is really fast? Faster than typing? Hey, Kevin. Yeah. You know, I do that all the time. It's like, no, I'm just going to call. It's going to be faster than typing.
Depends on the person you call.
It does. So that's another good word, discernment. Discern who I'm going to call and if I'm going to go see them in person. How much time do I have to blow off before I go down there and call them or talk to them? Because I know it's going to happen. That's okay too. But decision management, right? Okay. What else? This is fun. Deanna.
I've discovered that sometimes you have to let go of some of the things you really love. Because I love to crochet, I love to quilt, I love to do crafts, I love to paint, I love to do pottery, I love to draw. And I had like 30 little projects going and couldn't complete any of them. Mm-hmm. And so I finally had to just let go of some of it and say, okay, I'm going to paint and I'm going to do my pottery and that's it. And I had to let the others go, and it was like the hardest thing, especially when I meet someone and they show me a beautiful quilt they've done, and I'm like, oh man, I want a quilt.
Yeah.
But I have to remind myself, no, I'm letting that go for right now.
Yeah.
Maybe later after I retire I can do that, but it's really, really helped because now I'm actually completing some things, getting some things done.
And you're making really, really good things instead of having 10 unfinished things, yeah. Right? Things that aren't so great. Anybody eat an In-N-Out burger? Yes. You guys know what they serve there? Burgers. That's it. They don't have chicken. You know, they don't have curly cube. They have hamburgers and cheeseburgers and milkshakes, and that's it. And they're good. But they're really, really good at those few things instead of being on a whole bunch.
Recarbonation will take a long time to digest it.
That's right. That's right. The whole pork thing, like you eat some ribs and drink a soda with it, and it's going from 3 hours to about 36 hours to digest. That's how slow the carbonation messes with your digestive system. It's crazy. Here, I'll give you one more example about the carbonation in white flour. You guys know, does anybody know who Charles Barkley is? Famous Suns player, really, really good. But Charles is big. And he likes to eat, and he likes to drink soda and beer and smoke cigars. And when he was with the Suns, he had this nutritionist that he was already playing with the Suns and eating that diet, and he was pretty good, but he was just pretty good. And his coaches didn't know. It's like, man, if you just do these things, and that's all they had him do was cut out carbonation and white flour. And just by doing those two things, he had dropped so much weight and increased his energy so much. The very next season, he was MVP of the league, and that's all he did different was cut out white flour and carbonation, and that was it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you start reading food labels, you're going to be amazed how much stuff white flour is in. All right. Yes.
I don't know if it's different. For instance, some people might have trouble getting engaged in a project. With me, when I'm in it, I lock on, and it's hard to stop.
Because you want to get done, yeah.
So do you have any hints on? Because sometimes you got to stop. Whatever it is, you got to go to bed or
yeah.
leave work or
yeah. And that especially if you're really into it, and I can see you doing that with an art project. It's like, man, I should really go to bed. And just think about those things. Think about one thing that keeps always coming to my head is that more hours doesn't always mean more productive. And we know the longer we work and the more tired we get, the poorer our decisions become and the less energy we have to do really, really good on this thing. So if I know, hey, I got to be in my bed by 8 o'clock and it's 7:50, and it's 7:50. If I stay up later, this thing I'm working on may not be as good as it can be is if I stop, get some rest, get the food that I need so I can start it back over tomorrow at 100%. But you have to make yourself do that.
True. But if you're using all your, I don't know, sometimes when you're not thinking real good and you finally get that train of thought.
Yeah, it's not easy to do it.
Because you're not going to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Especially if you can see the light at the end.
Right.
Because there's a difference between staying for 2 and 3 hours and you're still not done. But it's 4:59 and you're like, man, I can 15 more minutes and this thing is done. There's a big difference between that and just keep going and keep going and keep going, because sometimes you get on a project and it never ends. Like you got to do the catalog. I can't imagine that thing ever ending. Yeah.
It changes all the time.
Yeah, and it changes all the time. So, so going back to the clock thing, give yourself a time, give yourself, and again, you will be amazed once you write your mission statement and identify what those rocks are, how different your decisions like that become once you've written it down. And you got to write it down. You don't have to tell anybody, but you do have to write it down, and it's noticeably different how it affects your decision making when it comes to things like that. I know it has for me. Awesome. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You bet.